welcome, Pepper. I'm
Hi,
so
good
excited to
morning.
see you. Thank you for joining this very first episode of the Real Women podcast.
Good morning. Well, I guess technically it's afternoon. So,
It
yeah.
is, isn't it? Just barely.
Yes.
Just barely.
Yes. And I apologize in advance if my cat decides she's going to join us because she might.
Listen, pets welcome. Pets are always welcome, so she can jump in at any time. So don't even worry. So we profiled you originally back in 2017, July of 2017.
Can't be.
So to
It can't be.
start,
It can't be. No. I mean, it seriously can't be. I didn't know you in 2017. It had to have been 2018.
no, it was 2017. I went and looked.
Did we
Look.
do it before I moved?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Oh
I'm
my
pretty
God. I
sure.
didn't even realize that.
Where are you?
Because Beth introduced us,
Uh-huh.
but I thought we
July
did it when I
20th.
had already moved to LA.
Here, I'll text it to you. I know you're on your phone, but just so you can see, it was 2017. Isn't that
Oh my
crazy?
God. That is crazy. Okay. So
But yeah,
2017.
and
All right.
this was the first time I had talked to you or conversed with you really. Like I didn't even know you at
Right.
this point. And this was our introduction to now what 7 years of friendship? Is
Yeah.
that right?
I mean, yeah, if it was July, so 6.5. Yeah. Because we
Yeah.
met, because you were one of the first people I met once I did move to LA. Like we got together in person and hung out right after that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And little did I know that well, I think at the time, if I remember correctly, you were planning on moving. You hadn't yet. You were planning on moving for the second time, and since then you've stayed.
yeah,
And
there was the hint at the beginning of an idea that I could possibly move back.
yeah.
But I wasn't sure about anything at the time. And I moved that February. So I ended up coming out in January of 2018 to look for a place.
Uh-huh.
And then officially moved, found a place, went home for my birthday mid-February. And then my sister and I drove out and I moved into my place on the 21st of February, 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so 2017 when I profiled you, 2018, you've now been in LA since then. Like, what have you been up to since then?
I mean, a lot has happened in the world and a lot has happened. Some things have happened, things that I didn't necessarily expect to happen, and things that I didn't, things that I wasn't weren't even on my radar. So in some cases have
Yeah.
happened. So I was script supervising in 2017. That was my job. Like that was my gig, as I was script supervising, though I was writing. But I was writing features at the time and had this whole epiphany, which we can talk about later if you want to or not. I think I've told you the story anyway. But had this whole epiphany about writing television and was kind of waffling back and forth in 2017 if I was going to move back to LA. And once I realized I wanted to write TV, I knew I had to move back to LA.
Yeah.
Because this is like TV shows aren't necessarily all shot in Los Angeles, but a vast majority of American television is written in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to write TV and be in a writer's room, then I was going to really just have to move to LA.
Yeah.
Now, a lot has happened since then. We've had a pandemic, and I know people who don't live in LA who are in writers' rooms. But they started in LA in writers' rooms and then moved for wherever for whatever reason. But yeah, so since then, I moved back to Los Angeles after being gone since I left in 2009. So I was gone for 6 years, 7. No, I was gone for 2009 to 2018. So that's 9 years. God. Okay. So 9 years. And then I was a finalist for NBC Writers on the Verge,
That's right. Yeah.
which was really exciting. Um, I think that kind of like solidified that writing television was a good call.
Yeah.
um, I wrote at the time, and the program has completely changed since then. But at the time, you had to write a spec of a current show that was on the air, and I spec'd Lucifer,
Yeah.
and I'm still really proud of that script. Um, and so I spec'd Lucifer, and then I got to the semifinals with that, and then I had written a YA vampire pilot,
Hmm.
which is called Innocent Blood, and I submitted that, and that got me to the finals of NBC. It also was a semi-finalist for Sundance, and I think a couple other things. It did pretty well. I'm still really proud of it. Um, and since I write genre, like writing vampires is not a bad call.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was really exciting time. My first real meeting in the industry was my interview to get into NBC Writers on the
Hmm.
Verge. Um, I had never had like a general meeting before, and so I thought I had prepared myself. Like I thought I knew what I was getting into, and I was completely, completely unprepared for what
Really.
it was. Um, yeah. It was also not just one person I was meeting with. I was meeting with the three people who ran the program.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
like
kind of
one of them was
intimidating.
asking, I'm sorry.
That's kind of intimidating.
Oh yeah. And like the person who was asking me the program or asking me the questions wasn't the head of the program. So
Oh,
I kept like I would start answering to her, and then I would like jump
right.
over the low person on the totem pole like visually and talk and try and talk to the person who was running the program, and was like, so literally I felt like I was a
Yeah.
ping pong ball. And then I felt bad for the person who was the lowest, the associate or whatever, the assistant, because I never spoke to him. And so then I was like, I need to talk to him too, just so I don't seem like a
Yeah.
total bitch. Like, it was a very weird
Yeah.
experience, and not at all what I was expecting, I
Right.
think, at the time. So yeah, so that was, I'm really proud that I was a finalist for that. I've written a bunch of scripts since then.
Hmm.
I was a semi-finalist for Screencraft's fellowship. Um, and with a newer script called Girl Anachronism, which is my time travel pilot. Um, I'm really proud of that script. I wrote and directed and produced along with you. You were my producer of a short film called Cauldron's Brew, which is a
Yeah.
cooking show for witches.
And that was what,
Um,
2019?
that was
Yeah, that's
2019.
crazy.
Um, we shot it. I wrote it in 2018, and we were supposed to shoot it that October, and like just
Yeah.
couldn't make it happen. So then we ended up shooting it in, I want to say, March of 2019, and then spent the whole summer like doing post, and then it
Uh-huh.
came out in October of 2019.
Hmm.
Um, since then, I've written a pilot that's also in that world.
Yeah.
And then we had the pandemic, and we had the strike, and I spent every day but 6 from the whole writer's strike on the picket
Wow.
line. I think I missed 6 total days of picketing. Um, and during since like last December, I've started a small writer's room for an audio drama, which is in the world of Cauldron's Brew and the pilot that's in that world. I have this audio drama. So I've got two other writers who've been writing with me. We've got 10 episodes. I'm not sure if I should actually say that since we're trying to sell it. Um,
I
the
mean,
episodes are
who?
written.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you're trying to sell it. So, like, what's your, well? And really quickly, Cauldron's Brew, is that still online? Can people go check it
Yes,
out?
Cauldron's Brew is
Great.
on YouTube.
I'll link it out.
Yeah, Cauldron's Brew is on YouTube. It's like a 2-minute short, but it was a lot of
It
fun
was fun. It was a
to
lot of
make,
fun.
and it's a world that I've really enjoyed, um, like kind of living in. And I talked to these two other writers who are in my writers group, and they were like, let's play. I want to play in the
Yeah.
sandbox too.
Yeah.
Um, so we've spent the last year, we've written 10 episodes. Um, we've revised them. We're about to give it to our writers group. We were all in a genre focused writers group, and the plan is to give it to them to get notes. And we've got our one sheet in with a couple companies. So we're hopeful
Yeah.
of getting it out into the world so that people can listen to it. But
And
it's a totally writing an
you've
audio
told
drama
me.
is,
Yeah, I was gonna say that exactly. It's a
yeah,
different
writing
type
an
of
audio.
writing.
Oh yeah, it's very different. Like, so I wrote the pilot. It's my concept. I'm the showrunner. Um, but it's definitely different because you have to think about space, even though you like your characters, you have to think about your characters living in a space, even though you can't see them in that
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Um, so the audio drama is called Live Transmission, and it's set in a radio booth.
Yeah.
And so like two of the main characters, there's three characters who are in every episode, and two of them are like kind of on one side of the booth and one of them is on the other side of the booth, but they're separate rooms, really, with
Yeah.
like a window between them, and like discussing and explaining the layout that's in my head to everyone else in the writers room so that they would understand, like, for someone to go and like punch somebody in the face, they had to leave one room, walk out
Oh.
that door, go into another room, and then go walk in through a second door
Yeah.
to get into the third room. Like, and that all, you have to think about the sound of that and
Yeah.
how each of those places sound different, and
Yeah.
how all the different sounds you'd hear with that person moving through that space. And if you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
you have to write all of those sounds down. So that's been definitely different because my other two writers are also TV writers. So
Right.
we're all used to thinking visually, other than, really dialogue.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a different process and a different way of writing. There's not necessarily a standardized script format either. So like getting on the same page between the three of us has been just making sure that everybody's like writing the same character names, and like, formatting it so that it's taking up the same amount of space on the page.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that, and that's been amazing. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's awesome. So you've learned how to write in a new way, still writing
Yes.
the way that you love. You're still doing TV, you're still doing series, but now you're writing this audio drama, and I'm assuming you still want to do television. This is just a way to create a world and a story. What else have you learned over the past several years that if you could go back in time, or your present self could tell yourself 9 years ago, 9 years ago. Was that how long? No, was that right? 7 years ago, when you were Pro Fred originally. Like, what kind of advice would you give yourself now, having learned different things?
Um, I mean, as a writer, I don't know that there's anything I would tell myself as a writer. Like
Mm.
doing all the different things that I've written and trying all the different, like I when I originally wrote my very first script, I tried to write rom-coms. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized I wasn't, funny. So
I think you're hilarious.
well, I mean, I'm sarcastic and I'm quirky, but I'm not like joke funny. And my rom-coms were not they weren't really funny. But that's the first thing I wrote was the
Mm.
first feature I ever wrote was a rom-com. I had an idea and went with it and whatever. It ended up it's in a drawer. It will never see the light of day again, but it exists. Um, but I don't think that I think everything that I've written, like there's nothing that I would tell myself as a writer, hey, you should like not have done that.
Yeah.
Or hey, you should because I wrote after I wrote rom-coms, then I was doing script I was script supervising a lot of these indie movies. And so I was like, ooh, I'll try writing like these dark dramas because I
Uh-huh.
worked on several like these really dark dramas and I wrote them and I'm like I wrote like I felt like I was slitting my wrists.
Mm.
It was like so like heavy and like dramatic.
Uh-huh.
And I gave it to my writers group and they were like, I don't think this is dark enough. I
Really?
was
Wow.
like, um, really? Okay. And then that's kind of when I shifted into writing genre, which I
Yeah.
have always loved and always been really passionate about, but hadn't tried writing yet. And
Yeah.
so I think writing wise, though, I think all of those things, having written all of those different styles, were helpful for me. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's anything I would change about that. If I could go back in time and tell myself one thing, it's I I spent a lot of my life trying to fit into boxes that people were putting me in.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I'm from Oklahoma, which is incredibly conservative. I've always been a very liberal person and a very um, quirky person. So I really didn't fit in back home. And I would like try and fit myself into the box. And then all of a sudden, like an arm would shoot out,
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
trying to squeeze yourself into the space. And like, then my weirdness would pop out and everyone was just like, they just didn't get me. So if I could go back, I would tell myself to just like screw them. Like
Yeah.
trying to fit into the boxes didn't work. Um, like allowing myself to be the most me that I am, the most me I can be, which
Yeah.
is even quirkier and weirder than I thought it was in, elementary school, junior high, high school, college. Um, I mean, I spent of the 100 and however many days I spent on the picket line, I spent probably half of them in historical
Yeah.
dress because I wear historically inspired fashion now, and
Well,
that
hold on.
that
Yes, that you make also.
no, I don't make all of it. I make a
Fair.
fair amount of it,
Yeah.
and I am very proud of it, and I love it, and um, it. I feel more myself
Yeah.
wearing that than I did trying to wear whatever the popular or trendy style of the moment is. But like that's like part of me wishes I could go back to me in high school and be like, actually I wear my clothes now are actually closer to what I wore in high school because I like the witchy vibe
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
popular when I was
Yeah.
in high school. And I wore a lot of that. So um if I could have taken it even like a step further and gone a little bit farther with it and worn that and just continued to wear that instead of trying to fit into the whatever was popular, then
Yeah.
that probably would have been better.
So it sounds like, from a professional standpoint, you've learned to be more comfortable with your passion for genre writing.
Yes,
You've
definitely.
you've learned from your experiences of writing non-genre related projects, but you've really come to feel confident in this genre type. And in addition to that, you've also come to be confident with yourself. And you've literally kind of like created your own style. Again, you make these clothes, they're absolutely gorgeous. Like every time I see them when you post them, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. You look good in them, like it's awesome. Um, and so I just feel like you've really come into who you are the past. I would almost say like too, like the last 2 or 3 years mainly, because I feel like
Oh
that's
yeah.
really when all of this has kind of started to converge.
I mean, I think the funny thing about the pandemic, and you know, everyone will randomly say something about the pandemic, but like one of the things was because you had to we were all socially distant and isolating, and so we basically had to each find our own way
Yeah.
to get through that.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up happening for me was I fell down a rabbit hole of watching like these mostly women, though there are a few men who made historical fashion and wore it. And I was so jealous
Hmm.
of these people. I was just so jealous because so my reason for all things, my reason for all things from the beginning of my life are two things. My dad built me a castle playhouse when I was I think almost 5. I think I got it the Christmas before I turned 5. And he read me Mary Poppins and I saw the movie when I was 3.
Right.
And those two instances are my reason for everything.
Yeah.
So if I could dress like I basically wanted to dress
Yeah.
like Mary Poppins when I was a kid. And then I read Anne of Green Gables and I wanted to dress like Anne
Yeah.
Shirley, and saw the whole mini series, like Canadian mini series, which is still amazing.
Yeah.
And like, so I was jealous of these women who were making these clothes that they dressed like Anne Shirley. They
Yeah.
dressed like, one woman literally made a historically accurate version of Mary Poppins' Jolly Holiday outfit.
Really?
And I'm,
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's insane. It's gorgeous. And I became obsessed. So, um, I did not know how to sew. I knew how to sew because I quilted, but I did not know how to sew clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried just buying clothes like that.
Right.
But one, they're hard to find. Um, they're often very expensive,
Mm.
and they are. Um, I am not a tiny person. I am of larger stature, so finding them, I might be able to find the clothes, but if finding them in my size
Sure.
was also added an extra layer of challenges.
Yeah.
Um, so after about a year of trying to go about it that way, I ended up starting to take a sewing class and started sewing my own clothes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in March, I'll have been taking classes for 2 years, and I've made a whole bunch of clothes, and
Yeah.
I wore almost all of them, I think, on the picket line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wore all of them on the picket line. So,
I
which was kind of
remember,
amazing.
I think I was it we met up at one point. I think up in LA, and you came in one of your clothes that you made, and I just absolutely loved it, and I just felt like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you like feel confident that you can just wear what you want to wear and be you, and you're better for it, we're better for it. I absolutely love it. So,
Wow.
um
Thank you. I mean, so every year I pick a word
mhm.
as like my theme of the year.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, it was badass.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And I decided that last year my word was also going to be badass. I just wanted to continue that because,
Great.
and when I wear my historical fashion, I feel like a badass.
Uh-huh.
Like it helps me embody badass. And when that
Yeah.
was the whole goal was
Yeah.
just to like really feel that and feel into that. So
Yeah. So what's
yeah.
what's the 2024 word, if you don't mind me
The
asking?
2024 word is moxie.
Oh, I feel like you had been debating about that one a couple years ago. And I don't remember if you
Yeah, I
chose it,
had.
but okay.
And it didn't feel quite right at the time. I love the word. It's, it's like one of those words of like, kind of like taking things by the balls and
Yeah.
like, just
Yeah.
like really going for things,
Yeah.
asking for what you want, like
Yeah.
going for what you want. Um, and I actually even got it on, I have, I wear these rings on my thumb
That's
and one of
right.
them
Yeah.
says gratitude and one of them says moxie.
I love it.
I'd gotten it several years ago and I it wasn't the right word for the year at that time,
Yeah.
but I think it's the right word for the year this year. Like
Yeah.
asking for what I want, like reaching out to people. I don't like to ask for help. I'm
Yeah.
not great at asking for help. I know a lot of us aren't, but some of us are better at getting over ourselves and doing it anyway.
Right.
I'm wanting to get over myself and do it anyway, to ask for the thing, to ask for the coffee, to
Yeah.
ask the question of whoever. um that's kind of the goal of the year, is to like, in 2023, because of the strike, as difficult as it was, as challenging as for the entire industry as it was, I definitely feel like there is a much stronger sense of community between the writers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um because like you could just go talk to somebody. Like
Yeah.
we would randomly start talking to somebody. Um, because I wear a lot of Edwardian fashion, and inspired me to wear a sash, which was very suffragette-esque.
Yeah.
And so anytime I wore the sash, whether I was wearing historical or not.
Okay.
So random people would come up to me and be like, "Hey, don't you normally look like a suffragette?" Or, "Hey, don't you look like Mrs. Banks
Right.
from Mary Poppins?" And I'd be like, and we would start these conversations. Um, and so, you met a lot of people that you didn't necessarily know before. I got to meet some of my idols of like writing
Yeah.
idols on the picket line. Um, I got to be involved in a bunch of different events that I ended up helping uh, coordinate and run. And like, I just feel like there was this a much stronger sense of community. And so now I want to take this community that I finally feel like I'm a part of, and like
Yeah.
ask it
Yeah.
for what I want, which is, to be to be a TV writer,
Yeah.
and to be an audio drama writer, and and actually get to do the thing.
Well, that's the perfect transition to this last little segment I'm calling the rapid fire questions,
Oh God.
which include like a quick 30-second. What's one thing that you want, that if we put it out there for the community and somebody in the community who listens to this says I can give that to her, what would it be? So that's one. And then another one is, what's something that you can then give? Like, and it could be something as simple as you'll follow somebody on Instagram, or you'll read somebody's script and give notes, or you'll grab a coffee with us. It can be very, very simple, but something that you can give somebody that if they're looking for that, they could reach out to you. And then, of course, where people can find you.
Okay. So, I mean, of course, the thing that I want is to be staffed.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be staffed on a genre TV show. Sandman, preferably.
Okay, we're putting
That's
it
the
out
dream
there.
show.
We're putting it out there.
If anyone knows Allan Heinberg, he's from my hometown. He's the showrunner of Sandman. Please Yes, that's the goal. Is, I mean, no, there's lots of goals. There's lots of shows, of course, that I would love to write on, but that was the reason. That was the show that I started writing
Yeah.
TV to write for Sandman, which wasn't even in development as
Yeah.
a TV show at the time. Um, but I think one thing that I've done many times and I'm happy to do is I've had a lot of people who are about to move to LA and we've had a Zoom or had a coffee right
Mm-hmm.
when they come out to visit to look for a place
Yeah.
and like talk about the reality of moving here because Los Angeles is very different from a lot of other major cities. I lived in New York City. I lived in Portland, Oregon. I lived in Oklahoma City. I've lived in Paris. Like I've lived in all of these places, and living in LA is very different than it is living in any of those other cities. So I think actually having a conversation about what it's like and certain logistics, which can be are things that you don't necessarily think about
Yeah.
unless you've lived here before. Um, I've had a lot of conversations with people about that, and I'm always happy to do that because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
If you want to make like one of the things about making it work here is like making sure that you're in a good place
Yeah.
and like that you kind of have an idea about certain things and
Yeah.
um,
Cool.
talking to somebody about that and talking that through can be really helpful.
Great. So if there's anybody listening that wants to move to LA, Pepper's your go-to gal. So where can they find you? How can they reach you?
um, so I'm on Instagram as at Pepper Reed. So PEPPERREED, all one word. You can also see the clothes that I make
Yeah.
and um, a, a lot of there's a lot of picket line karaoke from the strike. If you want to scroll back and like look at some videos and some reels, those were fun. So, but yeah, so Pepper Reed on Instagram. That's the easiest way to find me.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Pepper, thank you for this inaugural episode. I so appreciate it, and I always love chatting with you and catching up. But I'm excited for other people to get to know you a little bit better and to share this with others. And you're one of the people that I look up to the most. You're passionate. You're a hard worker. You're organized. You're lots of things, and I admire you so much. And I always love learning more from you and watching you and seeing you become who you've been. And I think it's amazing. So thank you so much for all of that.